next up, we're going to be kind of delving further into this
your
topic.
Mom.
Thank you.
Delving further into your mom.
Delving further into the topic of awkward transitions from the DS.
Speaking of awkward transitions.
Sorry to cut in. Hello, my dears. Hero here. And welcome to part 2 of our Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl review. This thing's a 3-parter now. Call it the BDSP Dissection Trilogy. Yeah, I also think the name is gross. To watch the first part of our review, you can click the link here or down there or, wherever the link is. And to make sure you don't miss part 3, the grand finale, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. As for today, my friend Lynel and I will be discussing how Pokemon Diamond and Pearl was gracelessly transitioned from the DS to the Nintendo Switch. The automatic challenge you face when developing a port of a Nintendo DS game to the Nintendo Switch, no matter who took on this project, whether it were Game Freak or ILCA, anyone was going to have the challenge of moving this game that was originally designed to fit on 2 screens, played on 2 screens, and merge those onto 1 screen. So ILCA had their work cut out for them when making Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. The original Pokemon Platinum is one of my most played Pokemon games ever. I can spot every little hiccup in the transition from this DS game, a game with 2 screens, to the single-screened Nintendo Switch. For my friend Lynel, on the other hand, this was their first main series Pokemon game that they ever played. They do, however, have a history in game design, so I can say specifically this was different, and Lynel can say, yeah, that doesn't work because... Together, we will define why these games were kinda doomed before they even came out. Hot take, Nintendo missed their chance. The Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl remakes should have came out on the Nintendo Wii U, where there actually was 2 screen spaces to utilize in your gaming experience. In general, I think it was a missed opportunity that we didn't get more ports of DS games to the Nintendo Wii U. I think that would have added a lot of value to that struggling system. But we got them on the Switch, so let's talk about it.
Your mom.
Oh my gosh.
Speaking of awkward transitions, your mom.
So, there's a term I like to use called button soup, and that's whenever menu layouts and the buttons that bring up certain menus are just kind of all over the place. There's not a great internal logic, and you waste a bunch of in-game time pulling up the wrong menus, closing them, pulling up the right menus. And that is everywhere in this game. Just everywhere. For instance, I'm trained, get it? To think that the Y button will activate your registered items in a game. That has now been moved to plus. So I'm constantly hitting the Y button and hitting the local communications menu, which honestly could have been moved to plus. That would have made a little more sense.
Instead of having a whole button about local communications.
So that just from my long time experience playing Pokemon,
in case you forget at any point what local communications is, just press Y. I also didn't like to pull up the map. You had to go into your icons. You had to press plus and then press X or Y, and it just seemed like a really convoluted way to pull up the map because you had to go into a menu.
Other way
pull
around,
up the menu.
X then plus. But there was a lot of times where I would hit plus first and pull up the registered items menu.
I just want to pull up the map. Why is it so hard?
Yeah, the map should be a little easier.
The map should be a whole button. You have to go to it a lot. You have to figure out where you want to go, where you need to go, where you have things that you need to go to, specific shops with specific balls where people are. And it's like, It's just a really convoluted way to get to something so necessary in the game when you have a whole button dedicated to something that is so unnecessary.
Another really frustrating transition from the DS games is the Poketch, and specifically the Poketch being the Poketch from Diamond and Pearl. I get it, they're Diamond and Pearl remakes, not a Platinum remake, but the Platinum Poketch was so much better because of the fact you had buttons to go up and down with the apps. It was just a convenience that they took away in this version for the sake of making it more accurate. And it's really, really annoying to skip past the app you were looking for by hitting the button one too many times.
There's no
Then you have
menu.
to scroll through all the apps again instead of in Platinum, you could just, hit down.
Yeah, it works in one direction, and there's no menu to find it. And some of the apps are kind of hard to find.
Yeah, even a mini menu that brings up like all your Poketch apps.
Because all the apps are numbered, which is like handy if you have all of the apps. But if you don't, then you're just skipping from 1 to 17, and it's like.
And actually, the more apps you have, the more you have to
confusing
click
it gets.
through. Yeah. So that's really annoying. Like
The most useless apps on the planet.
It didn't have to be a Platinum remake, sure. If they really wanted it to be Diamond and Pearl, fine, I guess. I just really wish they would have, put in a little extra heart, because they already remade the games.
If you're gonna remake the game, remake it and make it better.
Yeah.
Add all the things that you want to add to the game that clearly you wanted to add to other games, like Platinum. Like, the Poketch was so much better in Platinum, and you knew that because you made it better. Take it, put it into this new make of this older game.
By not including it, you're shooting yourself in the foot and saying, hey, Platinum's still kind of a better remake.
It's still better.
I will argue, while these games are fun, if you have the choice, Platinum on an emulator where you can ×3 speed and speed through the much slower game. Because really, that's the biggest thing this game has is its pacing is way better. That's the one thing it really has over Platinum. And the Poketch, frankly, just looks ugly. There's only one screen, obviously, and the Poketch used to be so perfect because of how it just rested in the bottom screen of your DS. But now, it's forced to become this ugly HUD thing, but it's not
implemented.
It doesn't look good. At all. And
it takes up a lot of space in the top right corner, and when you push the button to activate it, it doesn't immediately go away when you're done with it. It just gets smaller, which is cool, I guess, if you're using like the dowsing machine and you have to like have it out and you still have to like walk around and like do things and interact with the game, and it's like you need it right there. But like it's this small thing that just is kind of taking up space and is obnoxious to deal with.
Yeah, they had the opportunity to do some new stuff with the Poketch because the Poketch was invented to be kind of this display of the uniqueness of the DS having two screens. This is the first Pokemon games on the DS, so it's like, what do we do with this other screen while you're doing the main game all the time? We'll throw a clock in the bottom, and actually this clock is a whole watch that has a bunch of stuff you can do. That's pretty cool. In this game, I don't know what they would have done different, but maybe they could have done something cooler to represent more up-to-date technologies.
Which is what I'm saying, because you had the two screens of the DS, so when you fused both of the screens together in that way, on the device of the Switch, you've essentially taken away that thing that made the Poketch so cool and so easy and like kind of accessible, and instead you've kind of created this thing. You've just like moved it onto your screen instead of implementing it into the screen.
It's just an obvious like, remember
this.
We need to have the Poketch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was so confusing because like it was so useful to have all of like the HMs that you needed on the Poketch, which is so awesome because you don't have to hold them on your Pokemon. It's just clunky.
Clunky is the best word for it, and most of the time you're best off
could have done it better.
Holding R to make it go off your screen and forgetting the Poketch exists, basically.
Until you need it again.
But something I thought would have been really cool for the Poketch was like some button that like pulls it up, maybe instead of a local communications menu. But then what I was picturing is the camera punches in super close all of a sudden to you, the character, and then there's an animation transition where you like pull your arm up into view, pulling like the watch into screen.
That would just make it like a whole sub-menu and kind of pull you out of whatever thing you're doing.
It would, but I think it would be cooler. It wouldn't work the same way as the old Poketch with like the dowsing machine and everything.
Yeah, which would be confusing because then you'd have to go into a whole menu and like move a little bit, go back into a whole menu to use the dowsing rod.
I guess in my view of it too, more of like all of the game's menu options would be in the Poketch. Yeah, so yeah, I guess it's not a perfect idea. You make a good point. Getting into a couple more specific apps. The dowsing machine is really annoying to use. On the DS, this mechanic was fine because it's always there, so you can always just
no touchscreen
do the little radar. Yeah.
For the dowsing machine, which is dumb.
We can't forget that. So no touchscreen.
Even though the cursor is a finger. The cursor's a finger and there's no touchscreen implementation to it.
Really, really silly. So
it's funny.
That makes using the dowsing machine much less satisfying off the bat. Also, having to pull it up and then run to the item, it adds extra steps to what used to be a really seamless gameplay mechanic. Another app that suffers from the lack of touchscreen, silly, the Note app.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to write notes? It feels like writing notes with an Etch-a-Sketch.
With MS Paint.
You have to go pixel by pixel. What were they thinking not putting touchscreen support for the freaking Notes app?
When they had a stylus on the DS, you used to be able to draw and write and like create things on the touchscreen, and now there's no touchscreen implementation for this Poketch. And even though they have highly specified things that require like a stylus or touchscreen implementation to use, like a notepad.
Enjoy your Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah.
Your $60 Etch-a-Sketch. There's just so many useless Poketch apps.
As I said before.
I guess this has become a subcategory within awkward transitions from the DS of the Poketch. Woof. But yeah, just like, this isn't necessarily a knock against the remakes, but just in general, this was the case in Diamond and Pearl as well. The Poketch apps, there's a lot of silly, useless ones, such as the analog clock app that you get in the super important Celestic Town.
Super important app of the analog clock, which should have already come standard on your watch.
How many? Yeah, wait. It does have a...
Here's this watch, but you can't tell time.
I do think it's funny. It's like, because you got the digital watch normally, and then you go to the old school town. It's like, here's an old school watch. It's funny. It's just cheeky, I guess. Pretty useless.
Dumb. There's also a bunch of other useless apps, like, I don't even know what this one's called.
While you're doing that, I'm just gonna say, maybe when you're watching this video, they finally included touch support on the Poketch, but even to the point of our recording, which is a couple months into the game is being released, you can't touch screen interact with the Poketch.
Wait for it.
If the Poketch were more integrated with the whole of the screen, then it would
cool.
make sense to integrate touch, because it's the Switch. You can
it's from a DS game. Need I say more?
This analog clock, this map, which is only useful for catching, maybe 1 or 2 Pokemon?
At least Mesprit, which, spoiler alert, that's our very next section in this review.
Calendar, whatever this is. I think it's a notepad app.
I think that's one of your notes.
I just scribbled on it because I couldn't do anything with it, so it's just meh. This.
I don't know what that is.
I think it's supposed to be some kind of choosy things. You put, I don't know, if I write something here.
Oh, it's like a spin the wheel.
And then you hit stop and it's almost kind of like a decision making thing. You can put whatever thing.
Okay.
It's kind of like a coin flip almost.
Oh, and there is a coin flip app, though I won't say that one's useless. That one's, I don't know, I like some of the more just
This one's kind of important. This one's just shiny chaining, how far, it's just the chain counting app, which is cool. It reminds you of how many Pokemon you've changed so far, of what type, your first, second, and third place, of how many, and of what type, which is useful if you're looking for shinies, so I guess that's cool.
One of my subscribers is a shiny hunter, so features like that are always appreciated. Someone did just pop into chat. Let's see. Shiny Fur. I'm pissed. It's subscriber only chat, so that means I had to make the sub count 70 and not 69. No, but that was the goal today, Shiny Fur, in the description. like, awesome. Hit the funny number. Gotta commemorate it. But definitely wanted to also boost that. So, sorry for subscriber only chat, but thank you for subscribing. Good to have you. Oh, what's happening? Oh god, I'm getting sorry. I just got a message on my phone. Totally looked away and did not see Honchcrow getting up in my business. Oopsie. Do you want a free shiny Pokemon? Serious? I'd take a free shiny. Is that why you're shiny fur? Heck yeah. I really like this. I like how there's like air that's released from the top of these Pokeballs. These old school Pokeballs. I really like this trading animation. Freaking beautiful. What a beautiful bird. Thank you again. Shout out to Shiny Fur, aka Pancake, and as they're named in their game. You're a real one. This is dope. Thank you so much.
I've been trying so hard to just find one shiny. I haven't even found one on accident.
I've told you.
The calculator, in case you're an idiot and you don't have a calculator in your home, but you got $60 for Pokemon and a Switch. In case you don't have a calculator in your home, here's one supplied to you by the game.
I will say, though, the Poketch, at least my Platinum Poketch, was lit. As a kid, I straight up used the clock app as my clock. I would use the coin flip app for actual coin flips. I would write notes to remind myself in my next playthrough.
This one's more of a drawing pad. There's an eraser and a pencil, but even still, with no touchscreen support, it's absolutely atrocious to use.
Also, when you reset the game, the notepad resets. That's sad.
Because there's a notepad and a drawing pad. The counter, I wish it went higher. It's just a step counter.
Yeah, the step counter is really cool, though it'd be nice if it were... it could count higher, because I maxed it out before I finished my journey, and I didn't want to reset it ever because I wanted to see how many steps I took in my journey, but now I don't know.
It's just kind of dumb unless you're specifically looking to count something.
If you're hatching eggs, there's a certain amount of steps before an egg can hatch, so that's helpful.
There's your Pokemon rundown of who's in your party.
That's super necessary.
This one's kind of cool. This one's just like a screen of like, if you hold A and you hold it into the middle of your screen, you can see which Pokemon like you, which is good for friendship, just to like test and see how much your Pokemon love you, basically. And then obtained Pokemon, which is pretty cool. It's basically a repertoire almost of like the last, 12 Pokemon you've caught. Which I kind of enjoy. I like seeing all the cool Pokemon I catch back to back. That's always just kind of fulfilling and rewarding to see, because this has got Gyarados.
It's nice hearing you say that too, because I pay attention less to that stuff. So for me, this app's like whatever.
I don't know. It's just kind of cool to see all the Pokemon you've obtained. And I think it also puts in all the Pokemon you've evolved as well. So if you've obtained a new Pokemon through any means, evolution or catching or trading or otherwise, it'll go into this repertoire. I don't really know what this is. This is just like a counter.
It's your own personal counter. It's a manual counter.
I don't know why. I don't know what this is for.
When you need stimulation.
Sure, I guess, but you can't clear the counter. Like, it just goes up to 9999, and then what? Like,
you ever speed run maxing out the manual counter? Oh, you can't press too fast. It won't register.
100 pushes.
Bitch! Wait. They've added a touchscreen. Look at that.
Can I do anything else with it?
Whoa.
Whoa, I can select.
Stand corrected. Now that the game has been
Oh
out.
my god, it has touch support.
Now that the game has been out 3 months, it has touch support. All our critiques still stand, though. This is literally a discovery. This is brand new.
Still, but we didn't know that it had touch support. Either it did, and we just didn't know, or we're just idiots and we didn't figure it out. But I think for the longest time...
No, it definitely did not.
Alright, so at some point they gave it an update and added touch support. So, like, good on you, but fuck you for not having it.
Much better.
It feels like something that should have been in, like, on the Switch at release. Which it did not, which was very upsetting for us to have to play the game with not having touch support for this because it just seems so intuitive.
Yeah, which obviously they finally brought it, so it's like they should have not released these games in such a rushed state. It's almost like they're stretching themselves way too thin in the name of franchise because there's all this other shit like cards and shows, and it really just is too bad. Anywho, shall we move on to Mesprit? There was a nice segue in there somewhere with the app that's used to track Mesprit. The first thing I want to say that is, it's just silly that Mesprit is the one to flee from you. Because let's think about it. You've already proven your worth to it. From the beginning of the game, it's implied that Mesprit is the more special one, the one that you have an affinity towards, because it's in your hometown lake.
And it's connected to you. At some point in the beginning of the game, it's mentioned that you have like a connection with this lake Pokemon, and it's the one that ends up saving the day and breaking the chain of Pokio or Dialga. And then it just kind of plays hard to get, quite literally.
Yeah.
It's like, why? Why?
Yeah, that's the only explanation, is
This
it's like this
wild
Pokemon that
goose
loves
chase.
you, but it just likes playing hard to get.
So unnecessary.
But
Look at that turd.
Lionel has managed to catch Mesprit. I have yet to
I killed it so many
summon the
times.
willpower.
It is quite a challenge. It's a little frustrating, especially because you have to have a Pokemon that has Mean Look on it, because otherwise it will run away, and then you have to chase it down again, which is a whole thing. Because he changes location, and it's a whole thing. We'll get to it.
So the app for catching Mesprit, it's one of the more clear apps that just exist to serve one function in the game, because literally Mesprit flees, Rowan pulls up and he's like, "Hey, I hear the Poketch company has an app for you to track roaming Pokemon."
There's an app for that.
Maybe, yeah, he hits you with there's an app for that. So you have to run to the Poketch company and talk to the president. He's like, "Hey, I just invented this app where you can track mythical lake Pokemon. Isn't that neat?" And you're like, "Just give me the damn download." And then you get to be introduced to the beauty of roaming Pokemon. And this is actually pretty funny. Lionel is scrolling through the legendary birds they've caught.
Yeah.
Which have now been moved to Romanus Park. But I think back in the day, I may be wrong saying this, but I'm pretty sure the birds, at least in Platinum, were also roaming Pokemon. So there were 4
Which makes
Pokemon
sense.
that this app could help you track.
Which is what I thought the roaming Pokemon were. I thought they were Moltres, Articuno, and Zapdos, but it actually turned out to be Mesprit, Uxie, and Azelf, which is fine.
Well, only Mesprit roams. The other ones stay in their...
Well, yeah, but
in
it's
their
just the
caves.
general lake Pokemon, but like, yeah. Mesprit is the only roaming lake Pokemon. I think there might be another one.
So the roaming Pokemon thing too, it's an old tradition. I don't think they've done it in a while, but it used to be
I like it. It's a bit of a challenge, but it's the
Suicune,
problem.
Entei, Raikou were the original ones that
Yeah.
did that.
It's just, I like the idea of having roaming Pokemon, that you can just encounter these legendary Pokemon out in the wild, but like, part of the problem is that catching Mesprit was so tied to the Poketch app, because every time you would exit a city or a town and go onto a route, he would change location on the map. So you had to sit in a town, and every time you went onto the route that you wanted to catch him on, you had to go out, and if he wasn't there, you had to go back to the town and start again.
Yeah,
Which is the
no
easiest way to-
flying, no flying.
because he will change location if you go anywhere. So you have to keep walking back and forth onto and out of routes until he actually appears on the route that you're on. Then you can go and catch him. Then and only then. You should definitely save beforehand, unless you're a dumbass like me.
Yeah.
Whatever,
So
I just
here-
didn't learn my lesson.
Yeah, these are our pro tips for catching Mesprit. If you're like dedicated to filling out your decks, Mesprit is one of the more
Challenging.
tenacious Pokemon. Not tenacious, just
I'm tenacious.
you want a Pokemon with mean look so it won't flee during the battle. You can always
only-
continue your progress in the battle with the health bar, like if you do damage and it runs away, your progress will save, but you're better off mean looking it to keep that MF in place. You've worked so hard to track him at this point. So Hopefully you'll have the speed necessary to use your mean look first. We did a comparative analysis of kind of the different speeds Pokemon are in their level 40s, and it seems that Jinx or Mismagius is your best bet for outspeeding the Mesprit and landing mean look on it. Another thing to be wary of is mean look can be learned by a butt ton of poison types, and as we know, poison is weak to psychic, so not a great matchup against Mesprit. But we say Mismagius is a little better than Jinx because of that type advantage, so just you'll be taking less hits from Mesprit in return.
I just didn't have a Jinx.
You can throw a bunch of timer balls at it until you finally catch it. If you go with one of those Pokemon, it should minimize the frustration of catching a Mesprit, because you want that mean look, you want that speed, you don't want Mesprit to be hitting you too hard.
Yeah. He's only level 50. He'll only ever be level 50, but still, it's just like a pain.
Extra Sensory is a good move. Gotta watch out.
It is.
So that's Mesprit. Mesprit's a pain in the bum. Next up, we have Poffin Making. I'm just curious, is Poffin Making now touchscreen supported? Because for a long time it wasn't. We found out today that some touchscreen support is being added. Good news, everyone. You still can't use the touchscreen in Poffin Making. This review's still sound and shitting on that.
Fuck Poffin Making.
So they've added touchscreen support to the Poketch. Cool. Better late than never, I guess. Why don't we get that same treatment for Poffin Making? Just tried it again, and Poffin Making, you can't use the touchscreen, even though it's a touchscreen game. Alright, moment of truth. It's been about 9 months since we recorded this segment. The games have been out for just over a year now. Let's see if touch support... Oh no, that's my foot! Let's see if touch support was ever officially added to Pokemon Brilliant Diamond. To the Poffin minigame. No! Yep, still only the thumbstick. 1 year, guys. 1 freaking year. This is day 3. Last time we left off at Poffin Making.
Yeah.
The Poffin mini game, it's a fun little time waster, but it grows old quickly if you do it many times in a row. And the way it's set up... Hi, my name is Hero. And you're watching Disney Channel. Hi, my name is Hero. Here's my guide on how to be a god at Poffin Making. This minigame is not too difficult and can be really addictive. You pivot back and forth between spinning your joystick clockwise and counterclockwise. You just follow the prompt on screen. This, like a good Cooking Mama minigame, simulates the act of stirring the Poffin batter. From there, it's all about the speed. As the minigame progresses, there are 3 color flames that the fire under the Poffin goes through. When the flame is small and pink,
just like my penis,
you want to stir more slowly, spin the joystick more slowly, be gentle with that Poffin batter. To get the highest level yield Poffin, you want to minimize the amount of times you overflow the batter by stirring it too fast, or burn the batter by stirring it too slow. Phase 2, the flame turns yellow. You want to start spinning the joystick faster. Burning the batter becomes more of a concern. Then for the final stage, the flame turns purple, and that's the cue to yeet your joystick. Spin that sucker as quick as possible, because it is impossible to overflow the batter during the 3rd phase of Poffin Making. If you follow these steps, your Poffins will always be coming out level 30 or above. If you feed your Pokemon exclusively level 30 and above Poffins, you can max out 2 of their 5 contest stats. When you're feeding your Pokemon Poffins, you want to pay attention to the Sheen meter. Once you've maxed out a Pokemon's Sheen, you can no longer raise any of its contest stats using Poffins. This is why it's important to get good at the Poffin Making minigame, so that you can only give your Pokemon the best of the best Poffins. Luckily, the minigame's pretty easy. Just make sure you don't do it too many times in a row, or you may hurt your hands. Let's talk about playing it both in TV and portable mode. On TV mode, you are constantly doing, to get the best results, you're constantly rolling the joystick or the thumbstick in your palm. That's just how a lot of, like, any game with that kind of mechanic, that's just kind of the, like, easy, I'm gonna do it quick method.
But it's also, it varies on speed, so
And you're changing directions constantly, so I found, like...
If you do it with your thumb, you're just gonna get a cramp in your hand.
And if you do it with your palm, it makes it even worse. I played a little too much of the Poffin Making at one point, and I was, like, having trouble, like, closing my hand. It was messed up. And I am a fan of the game Bayonetta, which I would say is the other game where I've kind of done the spin thing the most. And that's never messed up my hand because it's interspersed. It's not a constant thing. So doing a lot of the Poffin Making in a row is a rough time.
Especially with the amount that you have to be doing it for contests or just like leveling up friendship with your Pokemon. It's just like not great to have to do it all the time and back to back.
So let's say you're playing this in portable mode. You're doing some Poffin Making on the go. Let's say you only own a Switch Lite, so no matter what, you are playing it in portable mode. This whole motion kind of works a little better on a Pro Controller, but it's doable with this setup. On a Nintendo Switch, you're suddenly putting your palm
over the screen,
over the entire screen. But wait, Hero, there's a touch screen, and this was a game where I still have marks in my DS making circles in the touch screen from playing Poffin Making. So obviously they would implement. It's so iconic. Everyone played this game using a touchscreen in the past.
As we just learned, there is no touchscreen support for Poffin Making.
As of yet, as of this recording, it's been out a couple months. The games have been out for over a year now. Still no touch support for Poffin Making. They seem to be slowly adding touch support, so it's not out of the question. But it's still too little too late at this point.
Yeah.
They messed up. I'm just kidding. It's never too late. ILCA, if you ever want to drop an update where I can have touch support in this Poffin minigame, it's really freaking important to me. For the love of God, just patch it in.
Like just using your finger or something on the screen would be much more helpful.
Yeah, another thing where touch support is weirdly excluded, at least still this is a thing. You can't touch any of the battle options, any of the battle menu on the DS. Like, you have the options in portable mode, it's right there on the touchscreen. It wouldn't be that world-breaking, game-breaking to be able to touch the options. Part of what made Pokemon on the DS feel so much more immersive to me than any previous Pokemon entries was having that DS, like, in battles. The monotony of battles can be broken up by having the option to use buttons and the stylus and, like, fiddle around with the stylus as a kind of, like, fidget during the battle. Tapping the screen really fast to be like, I don't know, up your good luck. Like, this'll get the crit to work. Like, no, it didn't, but the touch support was a feature of Pokemon. Oh, quick, I guess another thing about touch controls is from launch, at least the spelunking minigame in the Grand Underground, that's had touch support. So...
Did it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. We found out, so... Luckily, or at least earlier than all the other things, it was one of the first things to get patched in if it wasn't right there when the game launched. I know there was a meaty patch like day one where they added a lot of stuff.
But I don't know, it just feels like they didn't polish the game enough. Like, that seems like such a pretty important thing because they ended up adding it in an update. Why didn't they just release the game like that?
It's a DS game. Like, come on, guys.
This is basic things. Like, you made it. Just do it again, but better.
Next up, we're moving on to the Grand Underground.
My favorite part of the game.
It's a pretty dope place. Apologies, my dears. I'm going to have to split the video right here. Yeah, no way, man. How does Zoro from One Piece do that? Christ. Dude's gotta have jaw strength for days. I, like Lionel, am also extremely excited to discuss the Grand Underground. I do love that part of the game. However, as far as this video goes, this whole section we talked about today really was how the game was awkwardly transitioned from the DS to the Switch. The next part of the video will start getting into all the other stuff that isn't the main gameplay loop of catching and battling Pokemon. So we'll be discussing the Grand Underground, we'll be discussing contests, we'll be talking about decorating balls, dressing up your character, berry collecting. We also never really got into Team Galactic and our thoughts on them, so you can look forward to our discussion on Team Galactic in the next video as well. All that and much, much more in part 3 of our Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl dissection series. This is it. This is the last upload for 2022. I still have a little bit of backlog from this year though to kind of kick off 2023. We got the third installment of this Brilliant Diamond review, as well as a cat empathon to finish up. But you know, I've learned a lot this year. I'm going to enjoy a well-deserved rest and play a lot of those games that I didn't have time to play in 2022. Catch up on that backlog, because I was too busy talking about other games. I got Xenoblade 3 to finish, Bayonetta 3, Triangle Strategy, and this is a much older game, but I finally picked up Persona 5 for the first time, and gotta play that. Are there any of those games that I just listed that you're interested in hearing me talk about? So I won't upload for a little bit after this one, but then I'm gonna come back, finish some old series, and then I have some new ideas cooking in the brain. We're gonna approach 2023 differently. I am extremely happy with this year. I've gotten to drop some real video gems, including I think this one. I can already tell this is one of the gems from this year. And next year I plan to kick it up. I am closing in on my 2-year anniversary on YouTube, and I'm ready to level up the content. So I know I've said it a bunch of times in this video already, but it really, really is important. If you like the video and want to see more from me, please subscribe to the channel and ring that bell. It's the best way to stay notified and keep seeing uploads from me. And if you want to engage in this wonderful Hero the Main community, become one of my dears, go ahead and leave a comment. Tell me what you thought of the ham-fisted transition of Diamond to Brilliant Diamond / Pearl to Shining Pearl. What was the biggest letdown for you when you cracked into these remakes and realized, oh, so these games are really one-to-one remakes of a DS game on one screen? What was your biggest headache with these games? Thank you so much for watching and sticking around to the end. I hope you have a happy, healthy, and safe holiday this season. And until next time, stay super.